Hello, and welcome to FWO's information session about its funding program for applied biomedical research with a primary societal goal, or TBM for short. In this video we'll share some insights on how to successfully apply for TBM funding. Most of the information provided in this video is additional to the manual that is available for this program on the FWO website. Before you apply, please make sure you read through the manual first. The TBM program was established by mandate of the Flemish government to improve the health situation in Flanders. In the long term, it aims to contribute to the implementation of new therapies, diagnostic techniques, and preventive methods. Government support is the only way for these novel developments to reach the patient, because of a lack of commercial interest from industry. The TBM program accepts project proposals in the broad fields of health and well-being. Nevertheless, following the overall program objectives of the Flemish government, strict eligibility criteria are in place. The scientific evaluators will assess if your project idea fits the scope of the program using a pass or fail principle. Research that does not fit within the program will not be considered for funding, or it will be outcompeted by better suited proposals. So, a first and critical step is for you to assess whether your project idea fits the TBM program. To show a perfect fit, your project should comply with the following 4 characteristics. First, it should be aimed at the development of a new therapy, diagnosis, or specific prevention of a particular human disease or medical issue. Alternatively, it can be aimed at the comparison of existing therapies, diagnostics, or preventive methods in order to find out their relative efficacy and cost-effectiveness. Research that is aimed at a general health improvement for the entire population, for instance via nutrition or exercise, is not concrete enough and therefore does not match the scope of the program. Also, epidemiological studies or assessments of health organizations are not eligible for support. Second, the project proposal should cover applied research. Your research should be positioned late in the path from discovery to a specific application. There should already be a clinically relevant proof of concept available for the specific therapeutic, diagnostic, or preventive measure in the target population. The proposed project should be the last research step necessary for implementation in practice. On the other hand, pure implementation activities of acquired knowledge from the past without the need for further research are considered too late in the discovery process to qualify for support. For instance, the introduction into Flanders of an intervention that is already in practice abroad is not eligible for support. Third, the proposed clinical innovation should offer a clear applicability with an added value for the health situation in Flanders. This benefit should include at least a positive medical impact for a particular group of individuals or a cost reduction for the Flemish healthcare system. If the research is not aimed at a positive medical impact but only involves a cost reduction for the healthcare system, this should be substantiated by a preliminary health economic analysis and argumentation. A final and important fit criterion is a lack of industrial interest in the project at the time of submission or in the near future. This absence of interest could be due to a commercial or a legal reason, and this should be thoroughly substantiated in the proposal. Possible reasons could be an impossibility to patent the results, small target groups, and insufficient profit margins. Note that a high scientific risk is not a valid argument to support the lack of industrial interest. This would mean that the research is not sufficiently late stage to be eligible for TBM funding. In the TBM manual you can find examples of types of research that fall within or outside of the scope of the program. In addition, you can find information about all previously funded TBM projects on the FWO website and in the FRIS research portal. The fit to scope will be assessed in a very strict manner by the scientific evaluators. To increase your chances of submitting an eligible and successful application, we highly recommend to first discuss your project idea with the FWO administration. FWO organizes meetings at most Flemish universities where potential applicants can pitch their TBM project idea to assess whether it fits the scope of the program. Alternatively, you can always contact FWO to arrange a personal online meeting. FWO can also provide feedback in writing. You can find a template on our website that you can use to obtain a fit assessment by the FWO administration. The advice provided by FWO is aimed to facilitate orientation, but it is not binding. Each year, the FWO distributes about €14 million of Flemish government funds to support new TBM projects. FWO will cover all of the project's costs, including personnel, consumables, and equipment. A project budget can reach up to €850,000 for single-center studies. Applicants can submit a motivated request for a higher budget of up to €1.275 million in case of large or multicentric studies. The project period can vary between 2 to 4 years. The applicant is defined on the level of the host institution, rather than the individual researcher. A wide range of research centers and hospitals are eligible to apply. To increase the chance of successful implementation of the project results, the applicant team are supported by an advisory board of societal stakeholders. To be eligible for funding, your organization should comply with the European definition of a research center. Typical applicants are universities, university hospitals, or hospitals with an academic character. When in doubt if your organization is eligible, consult our manual or contact FWO for advice. Organizations that are not research centers can still be involved as subcontractor. If an organization will mainly recruit patients for a clinical trial, we strongly advise to involve them as subcontractor rather than as research partner. However, at least 10% of the budget should be allocated to a hospital that is involved as a research partner. We expect all research partners to have a meaningful scientific contribution to the project that goes beyond mere execution of tasks. The FWO encourages cross-institutional collaboration. Non-Flemish research centers can participate in a TBM project as well and can receive up to 20% of the budget. To increase the likelihood that the project will effectively change clinical practice, the applicants are supported by a board of societal stakeholders. This board should ideally be installed before writing the application, so that its members can help shape the project and utilization strategy. The board should be consulted in the various project phases, from conceptualization until preparing for implementation. The composition of the board depends on the topic of the application. Relevant members could be patient advisors, professional associations, regulatory bodies, health insurers, clinical partners who can assist with recruitment or who are interested to roll out the project results in practice, statistical support services, or tech transfer organizations. The evaluators will take into account the commitment of the board members. So, it is important to clarify the active role of each partner in the utilization chapter. Also, detailed and specific letters of intent must be provided for each partner. Keep in mind that the TBM evaluators are recruited internationally and might be less familiar with the Flemish context. Therefore, make sure to adequately describe the mission and position of the organizations in the advisory board. Since the call of 2025, the number of requested and ongoing TBM projects per supervisor will be limited. Per call, a researcher can be the main supervisor of a single TBM application or co-supervisor of 2 applications. Additionally, the total of requested and ongoing TBM projects for a main supervisor will be limited to 2. These restrictions are only applicable within the TBM program itself and do not extend to other FWO programs. The call will close on the 23 of April 2026. By 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we expect your full application to be submitted via FWO's e-portal. Subsequently, FWO will perform an eligibility check and will look for experts to review your application in writing. The applications will be assessed by external reviewers who have on-topic expertise related to the content of the application and TBM panel members who will evaluate the proposal from a more generalist perspective. After the written peer review, you can respond to their evaluations via a rebuttal letter. Next, another TBM panel member who is appointed as rapporteur will compose a synthesis report based on the content of the proposal, the peer review and rebuttal. Then, the TBM panel will convene to determine the final scores, rank the proposals and recommend the most excellent proposals for funding. After ratification by FWO's Board of Trustees, the results will be made public on the 26th of November. International experts will evaluate if your application fits the program's scope. Next, they will assess the overall quality of the proposed research, taking into account the potential scientific and societal impact. The scientific and utilization strategy are weighted equally in the composite score, so make sure to give equal attention to both elements in your application. For the scientific assessment, the most important evaluation criterion is S2, the quality, relevance, and feasibility of the research approach. Concerning utilization, the most crucial aspect is U3 about the impact on Flanders health. Both elements have a double weight in the composite final score. For a proposal to be eligible for support, it has to pass all fit criteria and be scored at least 6 out of 10 for every other score criterion. If that is the case, the proposal will receive a general appreciation score of A and may be funded depending on its position in the ranking and the available budget. If the project does not meet these requirements, it will receive a score of B. The proposal will not be considered for funding, but can be revised and resubmitted to a future call. In case the TBM panel thinks that there is a striking breach of the requirements, a proposal may receive a C score. This means that it cannot be resubmitted to the next call. Reasons for awarding a C score could be a poor fit to scope, serious flaws in the scientific approach, or substantial lack of preliminary data that cannot be remedied in due time. To conclude, we have collected some additional tips and tricks to help increase your chances of submitting a winning proposal. The evaluation framework that will be used for the assessment is translated into a score grid that can be consulted on the TBM webpage. We strongly suggest to perform a self-assessment of your proposal using this score grid and additionally, to request feedback from one of your peers. Each year FWO receives several applications that are rejected early on because the topic falls outside of the scope of TBM. Therefore, to save you time, a pre-submission inquiry is highly recommended. As explained in more detail earlier, you can send an abstract of your proposal to tbm@fwo.be. Once you receive a positive advice, the following tips can help you to strengthen your application. Make sure your project has a clear focus and there are no superfluous elements that distract from the primary objective to reach clinical practice. Ensure that the scientific and utilization goals are aligned. Discuss this upfront with your advisory board to check if the proposed objectives are the most relevant to lead to clinical implementation. Describe these interactions in your application. Include sufficient evidence supporting the feasibility of the approach, such as preliminary findings or data from literature including epidemiological studies or large clinical trials. For concrete examples, please check the TBM manual. This is a critical point that will be assessed sternly by the TBM reviewers. Ensure that the planning of the utilization part is feasible and realistic. The utilization plan should contain more than only disseminating the results in scientific outlets. It should contain concrete steps and mitigation plans. Make sure to involve the proper societal stakeholders early on. Describe how you have access to relevant expertise in the transfer of research to societal applications. For clinical studies, pay special attention to the patient inclusion strategy, taking into account potential dropouts and mitigation strategies. The advisory board could also play a role here. Perform a power analysis and include relevant biostatistical expertise in your consortium. When reporting clinical trials, be sure to follow consort guidelines. Centers that will only be recruiting patients without further scientific input should be included as subcontractors rather than partners. The FWO does not require you to obtain ethical approval of the proposed research upon submission of your application. We do ask to complete an ethics questionnaire as part of the application form. This is meant to help both us and you to know whether ethics approval of your study will be needed at a certain point. It is only after your project has been granted that you should request ethical approval. In most cases, this approval can be obtained right before starting these particular activities. Additional rules and regulation may apply at your host institution. You can contact the relevant university services for more information. Because a TBM application requires interactions with a variety of stakeholders, it is crucial that you start preparing your submission well in advance. The FWO administration are available to help you decide if your project idea could match the specific scope of the TBM program. Be sure to contact your university services in time to help you prepare a realistic budget plan and to ensure that the required documents and signed declarations are in place. Be proactive in the recruitment and involvement of the members of your advisory committee. Having the support of relevant stakeholders will be a critical aspect for the evaluation and for the future success of your TBM project, so asking their advice early on will benefit the application enormously. To conclude, we hereby would like to resume the most important dates to mark in your calendar. The call opens on the 19th of February, 2026. Most host institutions will require an internal submission of your proposal by mid-April. Please contact your internal services for more information. The proposal should be submitted to FWO by the 23rd of April at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. An invitation to submit the rebuttal letter will be sent to the main supervisor on the 10th of September. The rebuttal should be submitted to FWO by the 21st of September. The results will be announced on the 26th of November and granted projects will start of the first day of the following year. All applicants will receive feedback on their application in January 2027. This presentation contains only the key characteristics of the TBM program. Please consult the documents and e-portal on our website for more detailed information. In addition, you can contact the FWO administration via email to answer any remaining questions or issues. Thank you for your attention. We wish you success with your future TBM application and look forward to receiving your pre-submission inquiry.